Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So I'm going to start out by kind of sounding a little bit like, we used to make fun of our parents growing up that they would tell us stories about back in the day, how things were different. I graduated college in 2003, so this is not too long ago, but for people who are currently in college, it's an entire lifetime. When I was growing up, to become friends with someone, to befriend someone, to hang out with them, to go play with them, play basketball, video games, whatever it meant, it took a process. So we would meet at school, we would hang out, we'd be like, yeah, this guy's pretty cool. Then we'd say like, yeah, we should hang out, we should go to each other's houses. That meant that I had to go home, talk to my parents. Then my parents would have to go meet the other kids' parents, and then they would decide, okay, this is a good family, you can hang out with them. In some cases, more formality than marriage even sometimes, right? Like, okay, you can play together, it's official now. Right, so that's the way that we grew up. Even up through college, I remember that I had a long commute, and so the way that we would handle the commute amongst friends was your drive home was the time that you called people up and talked to them on the phone. So every day you had a different friend that you called up, you would catch up with them, you would converse in detail, see what's going on in the other person's life, so on and so forth. Just having a normal conversation, even hanging out. You would make plans, you would go out to eat, go out to the movies, do whatever, but there was a process and there was a focused sense in that friendship and how you were hanging out. When I was in college is when Facebook first became popular. And at that time, you still had to have a .edu email address to sign up. I remember my friends telling me to sign up, and I had no idea what it was. I couldn't quite figure out why anyone wanted to be on there. I signed up, I wasn't sure what I'm supposed to do with this account particularly, but I signed up, that was the thing to do, and you just kind of move on. But now what we do is times have changed quite a bit. Kids now who are in college have grown up not knowing a life before the social media age. Right? So even those of us that are still not that old, right? We're still not that old, but still there's a clear demarcation of life before the social media age and after. Right? We saw the rise of dial-up internet to high speed, of calling people, of writing physical letters, all the way up to emailing people. There was a distinct difference in how things were done. But now we've grown up, and this is an unprecedented time, because this is the first time in history where people have an abundance of friendship without relationship. This is the first time in history that there is an abundance of friendships without a pre-existing relationship. You have acquaintances, you have people that you've met a couple of times, and suddenly you're friends. You're connected with each other. You're emailing, you're texting, you're exchanging messages back and forth. All of those things are there. Whereas before even, you would have friends that were compartmentalized. Right? So there's kids that you hang out with at school. There was kids that you hung out with at the masjid. There was friends that you had at work. But everyone kind of had their own place. And now it's a hodgepodge. Now everyone that you're friends with, you're connected to all the time. There is no clear lines, there's no delineation. It's always on, always going. The other thing is that, and one of the things that I want to clarify, this talk is not about social media being good or bad. It's just understanding that times have changed, and we need to understand how to deal with that reality of communication changing. For example, how many people text more than they talk on the phone? The rest of y'all talk on the phone more than you text? Half and half? The thing is, I remember for the majority of people, texting has replaced actual phone conversation as the primary method of communication. Right? So the way that we communicate as a society has completely changed. I remember the first time my dad sent me a text message and I felt like the universe had been violated. Like he had crossed some kind of boundary, like why is my dad texting me? It felt very awkward and uncomfortable. Right? But the method of communication has just simply changed. And so what we have to do is we have to understand what Islam says how we handle this changing face of communication. Because like I said, these are unprecedented times. It's uncharted waters. Right? We don't have a lot of clearance on how to do things, what the etiquettes are, so on and so forth. So we've got to make an effort to try to understand how to do it. The Prophet ﷺ said that a person is judged by the religion of his closest friend. Right? This is something that's universal for civilization. Every community that's come forward, Muslim or not, has this type of a saying that you can judge a person by who they hang out with most. Even some business people say, finance people say, that a person's income, a person's net worth, is often the average of the net worth of their 5 closest friends. That's how much who you hang out with can impact you. But one of the profound lessons about this comes from another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He said that company is like the example of the musk seller and the blacksmith. If a person visits a blacksmith, right, they'll walk in, and even if they don't interact much, they'll leave smelling bad. If they interact a little bit, their clothes might get burnt. They might smell bad, right? All these, different things happen, but you leave with some type of a negative mark. But when you visit a musk seller or a perfume seller, just simply walking in and walking out, you smell nicer. Maybe you get a free sample that you put on. Maybe you buy some perfume, but either way you leave with some benefit from that good company. So this is what he said the example of good company is. The profound lesson here is that the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us a very deep psychological lesson. And that is that we don't control our subconscious as much as we think that we do. A lot of times we think we're too smart for our own good. Like, yeah, I can do this, I know my boundaries, I won't fall into that. What he's telling us is that you can't really control a lot of those things that you think are within your grasp. Who you hang out with has a much deeper effect on you than you like to admit. And so there's the concept of negative peer pressure and positive peer pressure. Right? So a person might grow up and they'll say that I'm Muslim, I don't drink. Right? That's a boundary that I'm not going to cross. But here's what happens. You start hanging out with friends who are drinking. Right? And you go to the party, everyone there is drinking and you abstain. And then your friends will make a couple of jokes, you become the designated driver for every single party that goes on, right? But here's the thing, even if that Muslim kid does not drink, they make it out without actually falling into that sin. What happens is that repeated exposure over time, it changes their view about the sin itself. It changes the manner with which they view that actual activity. And instead of having an immediate repulsion, an immediate disgust, it's normalized because they're constantly around it. By the same token, we have the concept of positive peer pressure. For example, if someone doesn't pray regularly, right, but they're hanging out with a group of Muslim friends, and those friends say, you know what, it's time for Maghrib, let's go pray. That person, even if they hadn't intended on praying Maghrib that day because they're not in the habit, by virtue of the company that they're in, they will go and they'll pray that salah that day. Right, so there's an effect of positive peer pressure as well. The company that you surround yourself with has an impact on you, negative or positive. So it becomes very crucial that we surround ourselves with good friends. Now, what I've mentioned up to this point is not anything new. This is something that we all comprehend. It's all within our grasp. But the real question is, how do we apply this to this social media age? When our friends, quote unquote, we might have 1,000 friends on Facebook. Right? How do we apply these principles into this age that we're in? And so that's where it starts to get difficult. The first is that we have to identify who's in our circle. Who's in our circle? We have to understand, we might meet someone 1 time, 2 times, and we befriend them on Facebook. And within 15 minutes, we know more about their life than we would have meeting them for 2 years without Facebook. You'll meet someone, you befriend them, you look at their profile, and all of a sudden you see pictures of their families. You know how many kids they have, you know what they look like, you know what the inside of their house looks like, you know where they've gone on vacation every year for the past 5 years, you know what they like to eat, what restaurants they check in. You get an entire snapshot of a person in just a few minutes. Right? Something that through normal interaction would take a long time to build up and get to know someone on that level. So you've got to be I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but what I'm saying is that we have to understand how that impacts us. So the first thing is we have to be very, I would say, ruthless in who we allow into our feed. So who we follow on Instagram, who we follow on Facebook, who we follow on Twitter, who we're following on Vine and Tumblr, whatever the platform is, the principle is the same. That when you take out your phone, when you log onto the computer, you're getting a feed, you're getting a stream of status updates. And those status updates, you're reading them, and they have an impact on you whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, because you're filling your free time with whatever this person is saying, no matter how trite it is, no matter how important it is, no matter how serious or how banal, whatever the case might be, you're exerting some energy to read and process that message. And one step further, you're also in the back of your mind thinking, should I retweet this? Should I like it? Should I share it? Should I comment on it? Should I reply to it? Right? So there's an entire cognitive process that takes place just from reading one status update. And we think about the course of a day. What happens? We wake up in the morning and we turn off the alarm on our phone and we grab our phone. Right? Before we even get up to pray, even if we get up on time, we check our email, we check Facebook, we check Twitter, we check, make sure everything's cleared out, all the red notification badges are zeroed out, and then we get out of bed. Then we go sit in the car, we're warming up the car, we check, make sure nothing else came in. Right? We go to work, we go to school, it breaks in between classes, we're checking again. Lunchtime, we're checking again. We go to the grocery store to get milk, we're waiting in line, we're checking again. You're at the barber getting your hair cut, you're checking your phone. Right? You go home, you're eating dinner, reading these updates on your phone while you're eating. Then it's time for bed. How do we fall asleep? We fall asleep reading these messages. Right? So in the course of a day, someone that we may have met one time, 2 times, that we don't even know that well, over the course of a day, we might read 10 or 15 updates from that person. And so we've really got to ask, what type of messaging are they giving us? Companies that I've liked, groups that I follow, celebrities that I'm following, athletes, whatever the case might be. How many updates in a day am I seeing? What types of things are they posting? Right? Maybe I met someone, they were cool at the masjid, we met at a couple of programs, we took some classes together, and now all of a sudden this person, they post every day about how much they hate their parents. And I might laugh it off and say like, oh, I'm glad I don't have these problems or whatever, but at the end of the day, that messaging is affecting me. I'm following an athlete. This is my favorite player. But they post pictures of themselves at the club. How do I react to that? Am I okay with that messaging entering my space? Right? We make a conscious decision about who we allow into our feed. And that's very important. And for those of us that are parents, a few years ago the conversation was parents don't know what their kids are doing on Facebook. And parents need to be on this platform so they know what their children are doing. Now I would say that we've moved past that. Now it's not important for parents to know what their kids are posting. It's more important that you know who your kids are following, what their friends are posting. Because that has much more of an effect. That's a much better gauge of understanding what's entering their psyche. So you have to be almost ruthless who you let in, who you're following. If someone makes some kind of an offensive joke, even especially even religion. Like I used to follow some celebrities and they would make a joke about Allah or the prophets. And you've really got to ask yourself, why am I following this person? Like, what benefit am I gaining from promoting them? Right? And this is an individual basis. You've got to make that decision. And you've got to cut those negative influences out of your life, because whether you like it or not, throughout the course of the day, that messaging is entering your mind. So you've got to be overprotective about what you let in. The other thing that comes with this is there's a certain consumer mentality that starts to develop. And this happens particularly sometimes with religious content, which is very interesting. So we'll say, okay, I've cut all these negative influences out, and instead I'm going to start following all of these Islamic people and these scholars and so on and so forth, and they post these religious reminders and all this stuff, right? Well, here's another thing that happens. Sometimes we fool ourselves. Because throughout the course of the day, if I've read these 20 very inspirational Islamic quotes, all of a sudden I feel like I've really learned something deep. Like I've really elevated my knowledge to a high extent. And that's a trap that comes with some of this, and this is not just Islam, it could be anything. You can be following like a management person or a leadership person, and you think that by reading a couple of these inspirational quotes, because in your mind you've gotten this bombardment of messaging, it's almost like you feel like you've read a book and learned something in detail. And then the other thing that comes with this is that we become addicted to it in the sense that, have you guys heard of FOMO? FOMO, fear of missing out? We become addicted in the sense that we fear missing a single update. We're afraid that someone is going to post something so insightful, so life-changing, that if I don't catch it, I've like missed out on the world. Right? So we've got to be very careful of this consumer mentality that develops. And social media to some extent it enables that. It enables that. Because we're encouraged, connect with the people that you want to connect with. And then what happens is you're consuming everything that they're sharing. And then over time, because it becomes habitual, right? It's kind of like brushing teeth now. You wake up in the morning and you brush your teeth. No one actually thinks, I need to go brush my teeth, right? You just get up and you do it. The same thing has happened with this. It's become habitual. We're checking it even when we don't realize it. And so we've got to be very careful about, and that's not just what we're taking in, but how much we're taking in and why we're taking it in. And the thing that happens with that, and this is one of the most important ramifications. We talk about simple things in our deen, right? We're always focused on, if we just got back to the basics, we would fix a lot of problems. Well, let's talk about the basics. One of the most basic and essential acts in Islam is to make dua, is to supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At a very basic, fundamental level. Following the sunnah at a very basic, fundamental level, when you wake up, there's a dua that you read. When you go to bed, there's a dua that you read. And here's the thing about the dua, even for waking up, going to bed. You can teach it to a 5-year-old in 5 minutes. It's not lengthy, it's not a page long. It's not even as long as Surah Al-Ikhlas. Right? It's 1 line, 2 lines. You can memorize it very quickly. You say it 5 times, you got it. But we don't recite it. We don't say it when we're going to bed, and I'll tell you why. And I notice this with myself. Because I know in my head that I should be reading that, and I don't. And when I got very honest with myself, I realized the reason is I just didn't have the mental capacity left to even make a simple act of dua. Because when you go through the day with your phone so habitually, so repetitively, and you're falling asleep, reading your email, reading those last messages, by the time you shut your phone off, there's no energy left even to make 1 line of dua because you're passed out. You're just passed out on the phone. And then the same thing happens when you wake up. So we underestimate the amount of cognitive energy that goes in to simply just reading status updates. They're 1 line, 140 characters. But the thing is, over the course of that day, we consume hundreds, sometimes thousands of messages. And we don't understand how much mental capacity it takes up. We have a very real issue with just being able to pay attention to something. We can't sit down and read a book anymore. We can't sit down and just have the dabbur of the Quran, to sit down and reflect on the Quran. We can't give it 10, 15, 20 minutes. The sad thing is the Friday khutbah, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, for many people, aside from the time that they're asleep, that's the longest stretch of time that they go without checking their phone. And many people can't even make it through Jummah without checking their phone. Right? That's the longest stretch of time that we go sometimes. We're mentally so addicted to it that we can't dedicate mental capacity to even being able to study, to recite Quran, to make a simple dua. So that's something that we've got to be very aware of. And especially for kids that are growing up in this age. Like, I'm very scared that my own kids have been using an iPad since before they could talk. Right? They know how to navigate YouTube before they even know how to flip through a book. It's very scary when you think about it. Right? But we've got to learn how to control that use. Another thing that comes into this hyperconnectivity is we've got to understand what it is that we're checking and why. I talked about kind of that element of being addicted to it. Think about when you're with your family, right? Those of you who are married, think about when you're with your spouse or with your kids or with your parents. And you're on your phone and your mom says something and you get annoyed. Like, okay, one second. And you really got to ask yourself, your mother, who is owed your utmost amount of respect, as a religious commandment, she's owed your utmost amount of respect and obedience. And you're telling her, wait, for what? For what? What picture are you liking that you're putting your mom off? What are you posting that's so important that you're telling your kids to wait? Like, what are you reading that's so important that you tell your wife, like, I waited my whole life to get married and I was so excited, now I don't even care about talking to you because I'm checking something. Right? We've got to be very real about how that usage impacts our relationships. But there's another thing that's really interesting. And I heard a comedian commenting on this. And he framed it like this. He said, why is it that a person voluntarily gets into a car and he consciously decides that at this moment, I am going to put my life and the lives of everyone else on the road at danger by taking out my phone and texting someone? He said, what makes a person do that? What is it that makes a person take out their phone knowing full well the dangers of texting while driving, and we all do it? What makes them do that? What he said was really insightful. He said that we've gotten to a point where we fear being lonely so much that we would rather risk our life than spend 5 seconds being alone. We're hyper-connected. We don't know how to be alone with our own thoughts. We don't know how to sit in silence for just 5 minutes, 30 seconds, at a red light. We can't sit at a red light without taking out our phone and just say hi to someone, just to connect with them somehow. And he said that what's happened is that this has created a loss of empathy. It's gotten people to a point where they can't emotionally connect with other human beings. Because instead of having a real emotional relationship with someone, instead of having an intimate friendship with someone, it's replaced by a plethora of superficial communications. Just a constant connectivity where the depth is of varying levels, but that connectivity is just there, that that's all we think about. Then we can't develop a relationship past that level. We can't be alone with our own thoughts. We're too scared to see what might be there. And so that's why one of the reasons that people get so addicted to it. And the thing is that real friendships, we know, for example, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us to test our iman. Right? We're tested with various hardships to see how we respond. Whether we're patient, understand the qadr of Allah, so on and so forth. But friendships are tested too. Friendships are tested too. People that you're good friends with. You think about someone that you're really good friends with, you've been friends with for like 10 years, 15 years, maybe since childhood. Chances are, I would venture to say maybe 90% of the time, that you have had some type of an argument with this person at some point or another. Take a husband and wife that love each other deeply, that would sacrifice their life for one another. And yet, of course, they have some arguments. They have a disagreement. But they work through it. They know how to get through it. Right? If you have a fight with a friend, an argument with a friend, you talk to each other, you repair that relationship, and you move forward. And what happens is many times, most of the time, the relationship is stronger than it started out with. Because you hit a difficulty, you patched it up, and you move forward. But here's what happens now. I have an argument with someone. And you know what I'm going to say? I say, forget you. There's 600 more of you on my Facebook account. I was going to find another one. Right? I have no vested reason to work on that friendship with that person. There's no motivating factor to fix that relationship. And it doesn't take a lot to see how this connects to marriage. It doesn't take a lot to see why Facebook is being more and more commonly listed as a cause of divorce. Because who are you connecting with? Who are you connecting with? Whose requests are you accepting? Are you accepting requests of ex-girlfriends? Girls that you knew in high school, college? Maybe not a girlfriend, but someone that you liked and they liked you and all those kinds of things. Right? The almost relationships. And when you have an argument with your spouse, what's going to happen? People that don't know how to emotionally cope with it, they go and they talk to someone that will give them what they need at that moment in time. And so they'll connect with someone that they shouldn't be talking to. They'll talk to other people they shouldn't be talking to. And it's causing a breakdown in the family structure. It's causing people to get divorced because they're ignoring their spouse at the expense of someone else that they don't have a real relationship with, that they don't have something to lose with. Right? Because those conversations, those I ams, something happens, you're not losing anything. Right? There's no risk. And so we put the real relationship aside and we jump to that. And so that's another thing that we have to be very, very careful about. So that's who we're connecting with, who we let in. Then we've also got to consider what we ourselves post, what we ourselves are posting. And there's a lot of elements to this, right? One is that one of the negative consequences of social media is that it has enabled people to carry two personalities. There's your real personality in real life, and then there's the persona that you have online. And it's really interesting, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that one of the most evil types of people is the two-faced person. It has one face, here, and one face there. And what's very interesting, a friend of mine was telling me, he said that he had moved to a new city, and he was working at a masjid, and so a lot of the young kids in the community were sending him friend requests on Facebook. And she said there was one kid in their community who was posting like 10 times a day. And this person was posting hardcore, thuggish rap lyrics all the time. All the time. Like posting like thug life this and thug life that and all this like gangster stuff. And he was kind of like, wow, this kid. And then he finally met the kid at the masjid. And it was a kid that had just moved here from Pakistan and couldn't even speak English properly. Right? And it was like a little teenager, 14, 15. Very socially awkward, and yet online he had this completely different persona. And so that's something that we've got to be very careful of, is painting a fake profile of who we are. And it works both ways. There's that aspect of kind of being cool, right? And then there's the people who suddenly become super religious online. But you never see them in the masjid. They post all these this is haram and that and all these inspirational posts, and they're nowhere to be seen in their community. Right? So there's that kind of a fake persona as well. And so it's something to be very careful of, is just be real. Understand that this is a networking platform, it's a communication platform, but be true to yourself. But another thing that comes with what you're posting is understanding the ramifications of what you post. And there's a couple of components to this. The first is that, unfortunately, one of the things that's happened is that because people are enabled with hiding behind a keyboard, they're very courageous in what they say online, that they would never say in person. And so there's a lot of trolling, a lot of bullying that takes place. And it's very tempting sometimes when you see something to just jump in. And even if it's not bullying and trolling, it's, we'll do it passive aggressively. I really hate it when people do blah, 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 and you're thinking about one specific person that just did something to you that day. And instead of being able to confront them and talk to them about it, you vent to the entire world on social media, passive aggressively, right? That's another component of it. There's also the aspect of lying. People straight up lie because it enables people to just pretend to do something that they're not. And one part of lying, and I think the college kids will enjoy this because you've probably all had it done or done it. But for some reason, we tend to hack people's accounts. And not through some complicated social engineering, we grab their phone when they're not looking, and we log into Facebook. And for some reason, especially the guys, it's automatically we post something about homosexuality. Automatically we just post something ridiculous like that. But we'll take people's phones and we'll just post messages. We'll just do things like that. And it might be joking, but in reality, it's a form of bullying. It's a form of lying. And that's something that we've got to be very careful of, is not to kind of cross those bounds. There's another component to what we post, and this is a new phenomenon, and it's really interesting. There's an article in Harvard Business Review, of all places. Harvard Business Review had an article, and they talked about this concept of hoarding experiences. Now, traditionally we think about hoarding, right? Like Surat al-Ghafir, people are hoarding wealth. They're hoarding material goods. That's how we normally think of hoarding, as something bad. Right? Or hoarders on TV, these crazy people that have trash accumulated in their basements and all this stuff. They said there's a new phenomenon of hoarding experiences. And what that means is that people go and they experience things with the intent, not of the actual experience, but with the intent of documenting that experience, so that they can share it online. So before, when the internet kind of first got popular, right, we would share things with friends because they were cool. Right? Before YouTube, we would send like Windows media files to each other over email because it was really awesome. And it had to be really awesome because it took a long time to upload the file, right? So you have to go out of your way to share something with someone. But now, instead of finding something cool and just sharing it because it was cool, you see, and I remember I went to SeaWorld, right? And so we're sitting at SeaWorld and with the kids, and we're sitting there, and okay, the dolphin show is going on, right? So we're like, okay, it's amazing creation of Allah, they're doing all these cool things, and the family right in front, the guy is sitting there, he's sitting in the splash zone, which is already a mistake, but he's got his phone out, and the whole time this dolphin show is going on, and he's just watching it like this. And I was kind of like, what's the point? You probably drove like 4 hours, you spent how much money to admit your entire family, you're spending how much money on that hotel, you're spending like $15 on like a hot dog at lunch, like just to come here. Right? And then once you finally get there, the main attraction, you're watching it through a 3-inch screen. And that's what we do. Instead of actually just experiencing that moment, being in that moment, enjoying it with the family, creating those bonds, what we do is we'll take our kids and we're not even like worried about having fun. Just like throw them like, oh, here, take a picture there. Right there, take a picture there. So that a few years later, we can post it on Facebook, show someone the album, like, see, we had fun, and I can prove it. Right? So instead of actually just experiencing it, we're just hoarding them. We're just accumulating them so we can point to it later and say, like, look what we did. Right? You see people on Facebook that are just posting their vacations all the time. It's like, how much time did you actually spend doing something? Right? You're just posting pictures, posting pictures, posting pictures. So we've got to be very aware of what we're posting and why we're posting it. And that comes to understanding moderation. Understanding moderation. The Prophet ﷺ said to love the one that you love to a certain extent, with boundaries. Because the person that you love one day may one day become your enemy. And the person that you have enmity with, that you have dislike for, dislike them to a certain level of moderation. Because one day the person that you dislike might become your closest friend. Right? So if you dislike someone, you don't need to keep posting negative things on their Facebook wall. Just unfriend them. You don't need to do anything with it. By the same token, if you're friends with someone, and they are a close friend, also be aware of what you're sharing with them. Don't share to such an extent that should you have a falling out, that this person now can use this information against you. Something to be very, very careful about. And particularly now, and especially since a lot of you guys are in college, and particularly for the sisters, when you're having discussions with a potential spouse, be very careful about sharing pictures, what types of pictures you share, and how they're shared. Because you don't know what someone else might do with it after. So you've got to have very specific boundaries set. And understand that not everyone who appears to be your friend has your best interests at heart. Not everyone that appears to be of goodwill necessarily has your best interests at heart. The evil eye, is something that's very real in our religion. It's something very real as part of our belief. And while yes, we're told that when you have blessings, show your blessings. But there's a line between showing your blessings and flaunting them. And the thing that social media enables is it enables us to flaunt our blessings and to show them off. And what that does is social media becomes an envy amplifier. It becomes an envy amplifier. And it goes both ways. One is that it turns your life into a highlight reel. Unless you're like a really emo kid, you're not going to keep posting the bad things that are happening to you. Right? You're going to post the good things that you've experienced. And so you're having a bad day and you go online. Right? So let's say someone just recently got divorced. Or they've been trying to get married for a long time and they've been having trouble. And now all of a sudden their friend that's 21 years old, that doesn't even have a job, got married. And now all of a sudden on Facebook you log in and every hour you see a picture from their honeymoon in Hawaii. Oh, we just drank this. And oh, here's a picture of our feet overlooking the beach. Here's the view from our hotel room. Oh, we just got cappuccinos. Here's the leaf that they drew on the top of my coffee cup. Like just on and on and on. And we don't understand the impact that has. You're posting this highlight reel without realizing that you're basically encouraging people to be envious. You're encouraging animosity. Whether you intend for it or not, that's what ends up happening. And even as righteous as the other person might be, they might know I shouldn't have enmity, I should say mashallah, make dua for them, so on and so forth. That's fine, but you can't ignore human psychology. You can't eliminate the human element of what's going on. Right? So be very careful of one becoming envious of other people, right? Because they're posting a highlight reel. Of course they're going to post a highlight reel. But that doesn't mean that they don't have problems. And by the same token, don't post so much things that you're also trying to encourage that same attitude from someone else. Keep things in balance. Keep things within bounds. Right? It's a networking tool. It's a communication tool. It's not a tool to just flaunt and show off. And so that's something that we've got to be very careful with. And so the last thing I wanted to mention, I'll conclude with this inshallah, is just kind of a couple of quick things. I know I've focused a lot on kind of the negative aspects. And I don't mean for it to be a negative talk, but the reality is that everyone is on social media, right? We understand the benefits of it. And that's not something that really needs to be explained in much detail. But the thing that we need to be aware of is knowing the limits, knowing how it's affecting us, knowing some of those unintended consequences. One thing that kind of woke me up is I have a 2-year-old, right? And so she came up to me with a ball and she was like, let's play. And so I was reading something on my phone and I was like, all right, let's just play catch. And I'm reading and playing catch. And she's 2 years old. She came over and she grabbed my phone. She's like, play. Like, she literally took my phone out of my hand and put it down. Like, she can't put 2 words together. But she realized that I'm not giving her my full attention. Right? So we do things sometimes we don't realize how other people are reacting, how other people notice. And so we've really got to put ourselves in check. A couple of ways we can do that. Go back and read your own timeline for the last 24, 48 hours. And just see what you've posted. And see why you posted it. What was your intent in posting it? Right? Why did you put that up? Another thing to do is just try to go a few hours without accessing it. Try to go a few hours without using your phone. If you're married, this is really important. Make sure that give your spouse time without distraction. Give your kids time without distraction. Give your parents time without that distraction. Turn it off and put it away. I saw a picture online the other day. And it was like, party like it's 2014. Right? And I was like, okay, it's going to be a picture of like kids drinking and smoking and doing all these things. So I opened the picture. And it's a picture from a college dorm. Right? So there's like 10, 15 people all crammed in. Right? The bed's overflowing. The couch is like all packed. There's kids on the floor. And every single person in that picture, crammed into that dorm room, is on their phone. It's like, hey, let's meet up in so-and-so's room and have a good time, and they all show up to do what? To get on their phone to talk to other people. Right? That was the way that they were partying. This happens, people go out to dinner, and that's what they end up doing. I was reading one article, and they were actually suggesting that what you do when you go out with friends, to try to kind of recapture just the art of conversation. Just those basic social skills. What they would do is that they would sit at the table and everybody would take out their phone and they would put it face down and stack them up at one side of the table. And the first person to break and check their phone had to pick up the bill for the whole table. And so it's gotten to the point where you have to force yourself in such a manner just to talk to someone. Right? That's something that we've really got to address. Because, for a lot of kids that have just grown up not knowing anything different, those are very essential skills that come into play. Not just from the family aspect. Even at work. I've worked in a hospital environment, a corporate environment, different environments. And I'll tell you one thing that I've noticed, quite honestly. There reaches a certain point where you and your co-workers all have, relatively speaking, the same level of knowledge, the same skill sets, right? There's not a significant talent gap from one peer to another. Some are a little bit better at some things, some are a little bit better at other things. But the skill that really sets people apart, that gets one person promoted, over another, is their ability to communicate well. It's their ability to communicate well. It's why some people get moved into upper level positions, because they know how to talk to someone else. They just know how to communicate. Right? And the ironic thing is that social media, because it's a communication tool, it should help us communicate. It should help us communicate. You know, one of the projects I'm involved with is the Khatib Training Workshop. And one of the things that we actually encourage everyone attending to do is to actually regularly write blogs and post on Twitter and Facebook, because the mental process of refining your thoughts into the written word, it has a lot of benefits. It helps you speak well, it helps you do a lot of things, it helps your communication. But if you use that communication, it's kind of those like illiterate messages where the words are all misspelled and there's like half numbers, half letters, and like even them is like DEM, and like you can't, you need to like translate the message. Then we're dumbing ourselves down, and we're actually undoing that benefit. Right? So use it as a communication tool, but use it well. And then the last thing I want to mention is, in the beginning I spoke about friendship. In the beginning I spoke about the importance of good friendship. And the thing is that while yes, there is an element of creating superficial friendships, there is also the element that it can augment and enhance the relationships that you already have with someone. There's that element of it as well. Right? So someone that you are good friends with, that you do hang out with, something like Twitter or Facebook, it can be a tool to enhance that friendship to a great extent. And the reason I keep coming back to friendship is not, because we've also got to understand that just the concept of friendship itself has changed. Right? So acquaintances now carry the status of friendship sometimes. People that we work with carry the status of friends sometimes. And so those prophetic advices become even more important. That the company you keep, the friendship that you have, it affects you to a great extent. But there's something even deeper than that. And that is what the Prophet ﷺ told us, that two people who are friends, two people who genuinely love each other for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they're in Jannah, they're in the shade of the throne on the Day of Judgment. They're in the shade of the throne on the Day of Judgment. Two people that just loved each other for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this concept of encouraging good friends is not just for your own protection. It's not just for your own betterment. Right? But it's actually a key, it's actually a means of attaining paradise. To have that type of friendship with someone, that you encourage each other on that path, that it's not a friendship that's just for favors or just for status or just to be cool, just for some material thing, but just a genuine love that this person, when I meet them, they remind me of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This person, I care about them and I want them to succeed, and vice versa. Right? Such a friendship, that close friendship, that trusting friendship, is a means to paradise. And so social media is something that can augment friendship. So it's a tool. It's a tool, but we choose how to use it. We choose how to use it. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He makes it a means of good for us and He protects us from this evil. Jazakallahu khair. That's the presentation that I had. I guess if there's a few questions on the topic, we can take a little bit of Q&A for a few minutes. But aside from that, Jazakallahu khair, everyone.
For your time, interesting talk. I have a question now. Since you mentioned about many things, and pretty much everything is bad. It's saying there's going to the club or a bar and I make network, but everything else around is pretty bad. If there's so much bad and only two things are good out of it, then what's the purpose of this tool, network? And we don't even spoken on this thing, but there's no, on a national level in the US, no any amount of anything else, a 13, 14 years old kid does not have the mind which you have said to observe and think, okay, what you're saying, it makes sense. So what's a good out of this tool if 88, 98 have problems and only two things is good? So can you elaborate on that part?
So for me, the thing is kind of, my personal feeling is that the Muslim community is always one technological step behind. So I remember when CDs first came out, right? The Muslim community was still producing audio cassettes. When the world transitioned to MP3, we started producing CDs. Right? We're always kind of one step behind. And the thing with social media is, you're right, there is a lot of bad on there, but there's also a lot of good on there as well. But in terms of why should someone be on it, the younger guys, how many people here have a Facebook account? Okay, even you got a Facebook account, right? but that's the point. That's the point. If I was to get up here and say, for example, social media is evil, we shouldn't be on it, there's all of this bad, the reality is there's not a single person here that would get up and close their account. It's not going to happen. Because there's something there that's drawing you to it, right? There's someone there that you're connecting with, there's something there that draws you into it, and more than that is, my feeling is that communication has changed, right? Like video killed the radio star, right? Video came and was going to put radio out of business. Email came, it put letter writing out of business. Text messaging came, it put phone calls out. And so the way that I approach it is that this is just how communication is done now. Communication is done over Facebook, it's done over Twitter, it's done over email, it's done over text messaging. You know, even with Islamic programs, right? So we had a time a few years ago where the way that we promoted an Islamic program was we had a phone tree in the masjid. And we would voice record a message and we would call everyone in the community. And then we would go to Kinko's, which doesn't exist now, it's an antiquated statement, right? And we would print up a Microsoft Word flyer with typos and we would put it up at the masjid, make an announcement after Jummah and hope that everyone showed up. Then we progressed, we started printing out color, high quality flyers. Right? This is as recently as a few years ago, like 5 years ago. We're printing out these nice, beautiful, glossy flyers. And now what happens? Now we don't even have flyers anymore. When we're having a program, we just email everyone and make a Facebook event. So the reality is that communication itself has just moved onto these platforms. And so whether we like it or not, that's where the conversation is taking place. And so that's why for me, even though, yes, you're absolutely right, there's a lot of things on there that are bad. And the majority of it might even be bad. But because that's where the communication is taking place, and because our kids are growing up with it, we have to find a way to reconcile and learn how to use the medium. Right? Like, I don't have all the answers. No one has all the etiquettes laid out. But we've got to start moving in that direction.
And the second question in terms of divorce, you mentioned the divorce issue. You may be coming from a big city, you may hear about those issues that people have. So how big is this issue in the Muslim community in terms of that related to this social media and divorce rate?
And I don't know like details, but like a few imams that I've talked to just tangentially about social media have said that their personal observation in counseling couples is that over the past few years, they've noticed a marked increase. Maybe not as a cause of divorce, but as a cause of marital problems. Sister Saib? More?
Could you please talk a little bit more details about the impact in making, especially Muslims, like we have a huge importance of the human interaction and the human interaction between us relations. So how these like will make us more desensitized and feel like we don't need this anymore? And so.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean the fact of being like connected, as mentioned, makes us like we don't need anymore to have like human interactions and human conversations. So how can you, but at the same time, if you like kind of like your content, you get yourself isolated from what's going on in this world. So do you think like
That kind of how to develop more human interaction?
yeah, at the same time to stay connected, but at the same time to not.
So it all, like for me, it all comes into balance, right? So, you know, the point is not to disconnect yourself completely, but it's set limits. That's kind of the thing, is to set limits and to be intentional about your time. So the way that I try to balance is there's times that I'm completely active, I'm replying to whatever, checking my emails and all that, but then there's a time of the day that I know, like, okay, for example, after I'm done working, there's a period of time where I'm not going to check it, right? And so at that time, I'm focused on that. By the same token, it's increasingly difficult, but you have to force yourself to do it. And that is to force yourself to go out and interact with your friends in another way, right? So for example, I have a friend that one of my friends, for example, I can think of off the top of my head. Both of us at work, we talk to each other on Google Chat all day long, right? Corporate job is all you do is talk on Google Chat, right? And so that's what we do all day, and then outside of that, like on the weekend, we'll be texting each other back and forth, right? So I'm very connected with him. But at the same time, we'll make an effort, at least, you know, maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, like to make sure that we go out and like get a cup of coffee together. Or like go out and eat together, or do something that's outside of that scope because you've just got to do it. One way that we're blessed with is that the masjid serves that function as well, right? So just coming and attending a program, attending a class, you interact with people, you meet with people. That is substantially different from your interactions online. But it's just one of those things where it just takes a personal effort. Because by default, it's increasingly easier to not interact with everyone and just stay home and connect with everyone online. But you've got to be intentional about the way that you deal with people and just set limits and set boundaries. Right? If you're spending 5 hours a day interacting on social media, then, cut it down to 3. And spend an hour with a friend and give an hour to yourself. Right? That's one thing that's one step further is, we don't give time to friends, we don't give time to ourselves either. You're like, when was the last time you were alone with your own thoughts? So those are things that, you're right, it's more difficult, but you just have to make an effort and just be conscious of it. It's a bit of a struggle now.
Is it okay or is it wrong to post pictures online, like of yourself?
Are you asking like fiqh-wise or?
No, just like your personal opinion, I guess, because you can speak from experience. Is it a good idea or a bad idea?
Is it a good idea to post pictures? I personally don't have a problem with it, but just understand boundaries. The question is it wise to post pictures of yourself online? I'll give you kind of 2 angles to it. So there's one angle which is, I'm personally okay with it in the sense that you should own your own presence online. Like you should own your own profile, right? There's that aspect of it. And just depending on what you're using it for and how you're connecting with people, like have that connection. For sisters especially though, you have to be very careful with what types of pictures you post online. One thing I will tell you that's very unfortunate is sisters oftentimes, especially those that cover, that do hijab, they will post pictures online, like privately on Facebook, that's only accessible to other sisters. And I've dealt with this tangentially, but there unfortunately are guys that will use a relative's account and access those pictures or go into those email accounts. So be very aware of those types of things. If you post a picture online, just understand that it's public domain now. So while there's, I understand posting your picture and like kind of having your profile and stuff there, but be very careful about what types of pictures you're posting. You gotta be very careful with that.
I had another question too.
Go.
How do you avoid hasad? Like you said that you should avoid causing it in other people. But
How do you avoid hasad? There's not an easy way. It's kind of an ongoing thing. It's just something that you check yourself constantly. Like, am I posting this to show off? And you just have to have a very real self-check. Like, am I just doing this to flaunt something to someone? Or is there actually some benefit in sharing it? And there's not a clear demarcation. It's just a constant ongoing self-check. I know that I'm not answering your question very well, but it's just a constant struggle.
I would like to add one thing, what she asked just now. It's a very issue, as you say. Anyone putting a pictures, intention is to show off. I mean, maximum, I would say 90. If I put a picture, I want to say, okay, I had vacation in Las Vegas or somewhere else, and blah blah blah. And you have a family, you are married out, and then it starts, as you mentioned, that it may create an envy that they had a vacation. Why not we are having a vacation? I mean, it creates to answer that question, of course, very tough. Thank you very much for bringing this kind of topic, but it's really needed. It's very tough to get rid of Facebook. Everyone has Facebook, we use it. The only thing I would say that classes like that would help for the young generation, probably the old one too, to at least remind ourselves, okay, there is a limit, we should not be doing that. Of course, it's a fast word, everyone is using it, I have used it several times today, but listening this one, certainly puts a boundary, you understand that there's a limit, you should not cross that. To that question, it depends on your personality. I mean, as a Muslim, you know your boundaries and what is right, whether to put a picture is right or not. I mean, you have to judge yourself, knowing the boundaries.
That's exactly right. It's gonna, there's not a...
Definitely creates envy. If I see my friend having a vacation in Hawaii or something, it kind of gives me a sense, okay, I can do that. it does bring that notion, that intensity in your mind, which is bad actually.
And it's another one of those things, it's not a one size fits all, right? It's going to be different for everyone based on their circle and who they are and everything. Did you have another question?
Yeah, I was wondering from the other side, it doesn't happen often, but sometimes you get this feeling towards people. So how do you avoid that if someone else is like causing envy inside of you?
Because the question is, if someone is posting something that's causing you to have hasad, there's a lot of resources. Like if you search for hasad online, there's like a lot of books and resources. But in general, what a lot of people advise is to primarily make dua for that person. Like make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses them and what they have, and also make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses you with it. Right? So that's kind of one way to counteract it, and it's just I would say the primary is just constantly make dua about that. But it's ongoing. That's a lecture topic in and of itself.
One question I always kind of hard sometimes. Somebody puts some kind of post like, my uncle passed away, please make dua for him. Now the concept of life. The concept of life means something you love. Now I'm not sure you're enjoying life if your uncle passed away. And you wait for somebody to do like it, then you start doing. So how do you...
Okay, so he's asking basically if someone posts like, my uncle passed away, make dua for him, and I guess 1,000 likes, right? Personally, I have the exact same objection, and I refuse to hit like on a status where something like that happened. It's like, my uncle died, like. I was like, what's going on? But, some people are like, I'm liking the dua that they made, right? So, yeah, it's just one of those quirks. I have the same annoyance. I don't like to when someone has died or something like that has happened. But, make dua for them and stuff, inshallah, But yeah, it's quirky, it's kind of weird. It drives me crazy, but...
But the other plus point of Facebook, as you say, I have seen many times brothers putting or Muslims putting nice dua, like I don't know about that, and right away you see that you do this, you give it. So sometimes somebody put the Darood Sharif, read today, and I did it actually, today I did twice, because I opened my Facebook, I see that, so very ready.
Right.
So that way it's kind of like also, positive, someone puts that, a lot of dua, a lot of things, so I don't know how to avoid these. There are pluses and minuses, and we have to.
Yeah, it's just, it just comes, it's like the point we made earlier, it's who you're following. It's what messaging you're letting into your feed. So if it's something negative, then you take it out. If it's something positive that's a reminder, then, you keep it in. Any more? No? Alright, so Jazakallah khair, everyone, we'll wrap up then. Thank you.